Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com and celebrity spokesmodel for the ClassicsToday.com merchandise shop. If you want to head over, you can get fabulous t-shirts like this one. We're here to trash Herbert von Karajan, and what could be more fun than that? Let's face it, because this is just the most awful thing he ever released. This is the 29 CD set, I'll put it this way, of his choral music, extracted from the enormously giganto Herbert von Karajan box, where, if you want to see that, just watch my workout video. It's my bench press, exercise device. But this is just a little dumbbell, you can do a few curls with it. It's not particularly useful for anything else. And I just loved how they tried to make a plus out of the wacky stuff that's in here. It really just amused me to no end. Here it is. Are you ready? Here we go. For the first time, this is the complete sacred and choral recordings on Deutsche Grammophon, in case you were curious. For the first time, this limited edition box set brings together all the sacred and choral recordings that Herbert von Karajan made for Deutsche Grammophon from 1961 to 1986. The 29 CD box includes major choral works by Bach, Haydn, Mozart, Beethoven, Mendelssohn, Brahms, Verdi, and Stravinsky. 3 recordings of the Mozart Requiem. Right. Just what you want. 3 of them, right? 3 recordings of the Mozart Requiem. 2 recordings each of Brahms' German Requiem and Beethoven's Missa Solemnis and Verdi's Requiem. I mean, it's not as if he did them well the first time, right? But you get 2 each. 2 recordings of Haydn's The Creation, Die Schöpfung, plus, as a bonus, a live recording from the 1965 Salzburg Festival. So that's 3 Haydn creations and landmark performances, etc., blah, 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 blah. Okay. So there's a lot of pointless duplication that I have to confess I admired. I admired their chutzpah in actually trying to present that as a bonus, as a plus. Because the fact of the matter is, and we don't have to get into too much detail about this, the fact of the matter is, Karajan was a terrible conductor of sacred and choral music. Absolutely dreadful, and I've talked about it before. And the reason is because, first of all, he had not a spiritual bone in his body. To the extent he was spiritual, he was a televangelist. He oozed insincerity from his pores. Not that he didn't think he was being sincere. He just never understood the difference between religion and religiosity. Religion does not need to put on a show. Conductors who are serious believers, whether I'm not talking about in any particular organized religion, but just spiritual or serious about that sort of thing. Take, Otto Klemperer or Herbert Blomstedt, or, they play the music fabulously, but not sentimentally. They don't have to make a point of how religious they're being. And that is what Karajan does, because Karajan's concept, first of all, to the extent that he was transcendental at all, it was East Asian meditation type Zen-like religion. That was his thing. And so his idea of spirituality was something that was very slow and very one note and actually not vocal at all. Absolutely not, because one of the ways that music conveys the sense of the transcendental is by denying the instruments and the melodies their natural vocal tendencies, their humanity as it were, so that they sound more spacey. Because the more spacey it sounds, the more transcendental it sounds. And these things are very, very strongly related. I've done whole talks about this. You may have seen them. What is spirituality in music? That's another video you can look at. And this is the case in point on how not to do it. The other reason he was a horrible conductor of this music is because he hated the choir. He always balanced them sort of backwards in pieces like that required major choral participation. But the real issue with his handling of the chorus is that Karajan's entire concept of sonority was based on an endless legato, just endless churning strings and smooth surfaces and yummy, gorgeous textures. I mean, it was magnificent. And it could be fabulous in specific orchestral works. The trouble with choral works, well, his trouble with choral works, which is evident when you listen to them, is manifold. The problem is that, first of all, great choral singing, as any choral director will tell you, depends on how you handle consonants. It's not about legato. It's about just the opposite. It's about how to get good, firm rhythm through the enunciation of the text. And that was a problem for Karajan, because here he is making the orchestra do all the legato stuff, and you get to these people who are all trying to shout words and enunciate their T's and their S's and their D's and all these problematic consonants. You want the S's not to be too sibilant. You want to have a T. You don't want to have a P that pops. You want to, imagine that. So the basis of choral sonority was entirely antithetical to what Karajan was trying to do with the orchestra, and he did not like that. And so he sort of buries the chorus as often as not, or attempts to get them to sing everything very, very legato, like the orchestra's doing, and it sounds, awful most of the time, just awful. And the other problem he had with the choir is that he didn't use them all that often. I mean, he couldn't control them like he controlled the orchestra. And the fact, music with words, believe it or not, is about the fact that it has words. Ta-da! The revelation. They didn't like that, because the words and the fact that you have to hear the words and that the words have meaning detracted from what he was doing, controlling the orchestra, with his eyes closed, doing this. He closed his eyes and he go, oh, like this. That was a bad thing, because he wanted to be the center of attention. And vocal music tends to make the vocalists the center of attention. And so which is ironic, because as an opera composer, he could be marvelous. But even there, he wanted to have this sort of maniacal control over everything so that there wasn't too much attention taken away from him. And that was a big problem in choral music. So he didn't do a lot. You consider that he made like 1,000 recordings for Deutsche Grammophon alone, or 800 or 900, and there's 29 that have a chorus. Now you know why. So given the fact that there's only 29 that have a chorus, how good do you think those are going to be? Realistically. Let's just see what's in here, shall we? I mean, they sort of told you from the top here, but it's the Disc of Doom. These are original jacket things. That's nice. But let's see what we have, because some of it's very good, by the way. There are some good things. There are exceptions. Karajan was a great conductor. Let's not kid ourselves. So there are always going to be exceptions, and I'm not trying to denigrate that. I mean, let's be honest and see what's good and what isn't. I mean, I'm perfectly willing to go for that. The Mozart Requiem, I couldn't care less. I mean, he never did much of a Mozart Requiem, and there are 3 of them in here. He did it every 15 minutes. I don't particularly care for the work, I have to say. So in order for me to enjoy a performance, it has to be really fantastic. And this is not really fantastic. He did get great soloists. I will say that. We have to admit that, sometimes these soloists are just amazing. You can't see who they are, because the Prince of Wilma Lipp and Hilda Rüssel-Maidan and Anton der Motta and Walter Berry. But he really did have very, very fine soloists. And then we have Brahms, the German Requiem. Ugh. That was just dire. It's so... See, even when it isn't slow in the grand scheme of German Requiems, it sounds slower than anybody else because it's so oily and thick and smooth. And that magnifies the impression of monotony, frankly, and this is not a good thing. Then we have, this is the live Festspiel Documenta Haydn Schöpfung, which is perfectly fine. It's the one with Fritz Wunderlich, who died while they were doing their studio version of it. So you get, that's one of three of those. Why would anyone want to listen to three Karajan Haydn creations? That first one he did, the first studio one he did, was marvelous. The other one was fun. It's first rate. It's the best choral recording he ever made. Period. And none of the other ones are as good. Not the live one, and not the the remake, the digital remake. Although I will say the live one, he couldn't mess with the balances the way he could in a studio version. So, the chorus is a little more prominent. We have the Mrs. Selemnus. No. His Mrs. Solemni were just dire. And here is his great choral effort. Haydn's The Creation. This is a tremendously fine performance. And I mean, it's really one of the reference recordings for the work. It's quite wonderful. And it just goes to show what Karajan was capable of, when he allowed the chorus to sing and he had the soloist there. I mean, the soloist, Janovitz, Christa Ludwig, Fritz Wunderlich, Werner Krenn, Fischer Dieskau, Walter Berry. I mean, oh my goodness. It really is just amazing. Then we have the Verdi Requiem. Oh, this is horrible. Oh, this is so horrible. It is so soft-edged, so undramatic, so completely not Verdi-like. But you've got Mirella Freni, Christa Ludwig, Carlo Kazuda, and Nikolai Gyarov. I mean, great singers being put to sadly not good use. Then we have the St. Matthew Passion with Janovitz, Ludwig, Peter Schreier, Horst Laubenthal, Dietrich Fischer-Dieskau, Walter Berry. It's enough to kill you. It's so dull. It is absolutely a brainwave coma of a performance. And I love the cover. Oh, there's a person in there. Okay. Boy, this original jacket is special. Ooh. Isn't that lovely? It's sort of like, it looks like a portrait done in, stuff that a bird dropped on your car as it was driving by. It's just, yuck. Yuck. Mendelssohn, Lobgesang. Actually, I like this Lobgesang. This is a very Karajan-ish performance, but most of his Mendelssohn is just horrible. But this Lobgesang works pretty well, actually. It's a big, beefy performance, rather well done. And what I like about it is its muscularity. It is not dainty Mendelssohn, not by any stretch of the imagination, and that's not bad. Oh, then we have the Bach B minor Mass. Another. His Bach is so bad. Oh my God, it's awful. You get Janovitz, Ludwig Schreier, and Karl Ritterbusch, and Robert Kearns, and oh dear. As soon as the fugal textures get going and you have counterpoint, it all just congeals. It just goes. It's like your aunt who always brought the Jell-O mold to family dinners, and everyone had to have some because she brought it, because she fussed, but nobody liked it because it was a Jell-O mold. It was this congealed mass of mutually incompatible ingredients in like the shape of a fish or something. That's what this B minor Mass is. It's just, it gives you a chill. All right. Mozart Coronation Mass. Blech. Bruckner Te Deum. Phenomenal. What a great performance, because it's Bruckner. And Karajan's Bruckner was always very interesting. It was very transcendental, and it's a wonderful distillation of what he regarded religious music as, with a composer whose musical conception fit Karajan's. I mean, it's wonderful because this Bruckner Te, it is massive, huge, massive, powerful. And the strings, they don't have a chance to be legato in Bruckner's Te Deum because the strings are going chung, 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 for about 25 minutes. So they're not playing long lyrical lines at all. It's all in the chorus, which is mostly in unison, or often until the final fugue at the end. And Karajan is completely, totally metronomic in a good way. What I mean is he doesn't speed up, he doesn't slow down, he sets the tempo, he keeps to it strictly for the whole damn piece, And then, to top it all off, Bruckner's extremes of dynamics, those terraced dynamics, he just nails them. Pianissimi are really quiet, fortissimi explode, it's a huge dynamic range. That's what Bruckner's music was about. And it fit Karajan's concept of what sacred music is. And so this is just wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Oh, look, the Mozart Requiem. Again. Oh, this is one of the worst records of chorus and orchestra ever made. The Stravinsky Symphony of Psalms. It is so un-Stravinsky, I mean, it's melted butter, it's margarine, it's oleaginous. That is the word, oleaginous. And the Bach Magnificat. Oh, the opening. Oh, it sounds like the chorus is in another town. And he's trying not to let the trumpets and the drums, be Bach's trumpets and drums. It's da 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 da. They're screaming at the top, and it's thrilling, absolutely thrilling. And then the chorus is supposed to come in, and you hear, you can hear it. You know why? Because I reviewed this box here, this box, there it is, for Classics Today Insider. So if you want to see, I'll put the link at the bottom of this video for Insider members. You can hear the opening of the Bach Magnificat. And trust me, you will not believe it. Oh, my goodness, it's just vile. Oh, look, the Mozart Gross Mass and the Grand Mass in C minor. Mozart C minor Mass. Okay, it's all right. I mean, it's not great. It just doesn't have any life. These performances, they have no life. And now we're in digital world. So we get Haydn's Creation, not as good as the last one. And you got to ask yourself, is he that arrogant? Well, yes, he was. He was that arrogant or not self-aware that he didn't listen to his earlier recordings. I mean, he was very into his recordings. He did listen to them and know that this wasn't as good as that one. Why would he let something go that was second rate? And this one is so not as good as the first one. And the sound isn't as good either. It was an early digital. It was glassy sounding. And, oh, look, Brahms' German Requiem. And it's coupled with, another Bruckner Te Deum. Just what we needed. Not as good as the first one. Again, not as good sonically. Particularly not as good sonically. I think possibly because it's with Vienna Phil. I really do. They didn't have, the absolute fidelity to Karajan's conception of sacred music that the Berlin players did. They sound like the Vienna Philharmonic, which Karajan could not control. And so it doesn't work as well. And then we have, just the end of it here, we're coming to the end of the thing, the Verdi Requiem again. Now here's one where the second one, this one is better than the first one. There's no question about it. It has just a little more meat in its bones, a few extra red blood cells maybe. It wasn't as anemic and as soft-edged and spaced out as the first one. It's not on quaaludes or whatever it is. It's better. It's definitely better, but it's still not by any stretch of the imagination a great Verdi Requiem. And then we have the Mozart Coronation Mass in St. Peter's, which is it's a gimmick. That's what that was. It's a souvenir of an occasion. It's like the Bernstein performance of Beethoven's Ninth. Again, I'm not wearing the tie for that. It doesn't deserve it. But the Bernstein, Ode to Freedom at the Berlin Wall. It's like one of those events. So you don't count it as a great performance or a not great performance. It's just a thing. He was doing a thing for the Pope. I'm sure the Pope was thrilled. And oh, look, the Missa Solemnis. Again, does anyone care about this Missa Solemnis? I don't think anybody ever cared about this Missa Solemnis. I sure don't. I mean, no. And finally, last but not least, in case you were missing it, the Mozart Requiem. Again. I mean, it's enough. It's enough. So there we have it, my friends. The worst box of Karajan that anybody ever dreamt up. And here they are, all in a little pack. I'm going to stuff them back in here. With the beautiful little styrofoam styrofoam packy thing in the back here. And we'll pop them in. There we go. And we'll put in the booklet that by the wonderful note by Richard Osborne talking about how unbelievably fabulous and transcendental Karajan invariably was. And with that, we come to the end of the Karajan 29 CD choral box, which you don't need for any reason. You just don't need it. If you want to get some single things from it, and the single things that you can get from it are marvelous: Haydn Creation, Bruckner Te Deum. Is there anything else that we really need from here? No, absolutely not. You can do better elsewhere. Notice they didn't put in Carl Orff's De Temporum Fine Comida, which they really should have. You know, I'm just looking here. Did I miss it? No, I didn't. It's not in here. So you don't have the complete Karajan choral or vocal music. Isn't that a disappointment? Gee whiz, how can we live without De Temporum Fine Comida? Holy mackerel. Get out your emails and pens and whatever and write to Deutsche Grammophon right away and say, it's missing. I won't get the whole box. Forget it. I'm not buying this unless you put Orff's De Temporum Fine Comida in it. You get the picture, right, my friends? Keep on listening to other things. Take care.